Millions are now at risk for exceptional storm surge across much of the east coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia as Major Hurricane Aaron begins to make its first United States impacts. In addition to that, we've got another system brewing in the tropics that could become a big problem for next week. We've got all that and more coming up in this episode of Tropic Talks. Welcome back to another episode of Tropic Talks, and today we are going to be, as we discussed in the intro, talking about Hurricane Aaron's potential impacts on the United States, but also potentially Hurricane Ferdinand in the future. So let's go ahead and get right into it, starting off by talking about Hurricane Aaron here. It's still a low-wind Category 3 hurricane, currently just north of the Lesser Antilles. We are expecting this to continue to strengthen as it pushes off to the north, and we are expecting this to redevelop into Category 4 intensity very shortly. As of right now, we're watching the wind field sit over much of the Bahamas, even areas just off to the south of Bermuda. Very, very soon, we're going to continue to watch this system move further and further north, and that is whenever we're going to be talking about the potential impacts on the east coast of the United States. But we're going to discuss that further here in just a second. Before we do, it's important to note that we have another area highlighted by the National Hurricane Center that has been noted to have a 60% chance of developing into a cyclone with tropical storm intensity or greater within the next 7 days, and this is the system that we're going to be discussing throughout much of the rest of this video, so stay tuned. Talking about Hurricane Aaron's storm surge here, you'll notice that our peak surge forecast is 2 to 4 feet everywhere from Cape Lookout back over to Duck, North Carolina. Now, we're not expecting any sort of United States landfall with this system, but it is going to come very, very close, and that could potentially lead to a minor storm surge event such as this, maybe even a little bit of heavy rainfall at times. But again, the greatest storm surge impacts are going to be localized to eastern North Carolina, the Outer Banks, areas across northern South Carolina, and southern Virginia. We are expecting an additional 1 to 3 feet of storm surge to be possible in those areas as well. So if you're out here in these regions, make sure that you are staying prepared. We're expecting the peak timing for these impacts to be Wednesday to Thursday. Now, as we look at the satellite imagery for Hurricane Aaron, you'll notice that the eye is actually mostly closed as of current, and the eye with Hurricane Aaron has been an incredibly interesting story throughout its lifetime. It went from being the driest eye wall in all of history to now a closed eye, and we're expecting it to open back up again somewhat soon. Now, currently, it's likely going to undergo rapid intensification very shortly, again, getting it back up to Category 4, maybe even flirting with Category 5 intensity as it continues to move north. So that is part of the reason why we're seeing this eye closed as of right now. But again, we're going to watch this as it continues to push further north. There's a very, 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 very slim chance at an actual United States landfall at this point. But if it were to occur again, it would be somewhere closer to the East Coast with more localized impacts. So now let's go ahead and discuss that next system. This is the 18Z run of the GFS. This is hour 132. We're forecasting for August 24th at this time. We're noticing a tropical wave developing north of the Bahamas, north of the Lesser Antilles. We see this continue to push off to the north-northwest. The GFS on the 18Z actually has this becoming quite the intense system, getting it all the way down to a 949 millibar low pressure system, doing something similar to Hurricane Aaron, but the 18Z wants this system to have a much more catastrophic impact on the northeastern United States. It has a 963 millibar landfall in Long Island. Now, should you take this too seriously? No, we are still forecasting over 250 hours out, and normally we wouldn't even be talking about a signal relating to such a system since we are that far out, but we do have a lot of model guidance and agreements. If we go back to this 12Z run of the GFS here, you'll notice that same tropical wave, but this time around making landfall somewhere in South Florida near the Miami area, 968 millibar low pressure system, and then it kind of rides up the East Coast there. This would likely be a worst case scenario just because we'd see the greatest total rainfall impacts. If we go over to the total accumulated precipitation, you'll notice that map is insane, getting up to 2 feet across Florida, South Carolina, even parts of Virginia. That is not going to happen. I can promise you that right now. Again, we're 300 hours out. None of these areas are going to be, impacted to such an extreme degree, or at least we can't say quite yet with confidence that they will be. But again, do keep in mind that this is still a potential outcome of this system. There are many outcomes, however, and it is very unlikely that we see something like this play out. Now, The European model actually doesn't have this tropical wave doing too much. It does have it developing potentially into a tropical depression. You'll kind of notice that confined area of low pressure there. It actually has this happening much earlier. This is August 24th at its peak intensity, and it stays far away from the United States, something similar to what Hurricane Aaron did, and then it kind of gets sucked up into the jet stream. So that would be another possible outcome, and that would be a best case scenario, obviously, if this system just didn't develop at all. Going over to the Canadian model on the 12Z, the most recent run at the time of filming, it actually has a pretty interesting outcome, very similar to the GFS 12Z. Taking a look at our 240, you'll notice that we get down to a 1006 millibar low pressure system. Now, you're probably thinking, Davis, how can you say that this is similar to the 12Z outcome of the GFS whenever we only have 240 hours out on the 12Z of the Canadian? Well, the 12Z GFS had something incredibly similar in that it had this system developing back into portions of the Bahamas, becoming a weak tropical storm, and then making its way up through South Florida and up the East Coast. Now, again, it is so far out to be forecasting specific areas for a landfall potential, and there are so many potential outcomes with this system. Really, anywhere on the East Coast or even in the Gulf, we can't rule out a landfall yet. But heck, we don't even know if this system is going to develop yet, so don't take this too seriously. Just make sure you're staying on the lookout. Again, all you folks out there on the East Coast of North Carolina, make sure that you're staying safe over the next couple of days. Before we do end off this video, I do want to quickly thank all of our channel members. As always, you guys are the ones that keep this show going. If you do want to become a member, make sure to do so by clicking the link down in the description below. You'll get access to exclusive videos, early access to certain videos, shoutouts at the end of every forecast, custom stickers to use in chat, and it just kind of helps me out. So if you do want to do that, make sure to become a member down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace. Sorry, just one last thing to note here before we end off the video. I did want to mention that our challenge over on the second channel relating to Roblox Twisted, our 100 EF5 challenge in 30 days video, unfortunately is going to have to be canceled. I would have loved to go through this challenge, especially since it was in general charity for a good cause, but it is not realistically possible for something like that to, for myself to undergo whenever I'm starting the school year. You have to be consistently intercepting 3 or more EF5 tornadoes every single day, which in Twisted is somewhat hard. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to call that challenge off. I'm really sorry to anybody that was looking forward to that series. We're going to continue to keep posting more Twisted videos in the future, though. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, make sure to go subscribe over to Davis Games, and I'll see you guys all in the next one for real this time. Peace.